Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this chat, I'd like to talk about the number of activists, paid up NGO activists, that are in and on college campuses all across the Western world. Now, there's been a recent event in a college campus in the United States where a paid up Black Lives race hustler went in to try and intimidate two male students who were in some sort of a study room. As I understand it, she falsely claimed that they were invading some space that was meant for multicultural activity or something like that. I listened to a bit of the tape, and she clearly had her answers already. You know, you're a slave owner, you're a racist, this sort of thing. And it was just something a little bit too slick and stage managed about it. So this wasn't someone just who happened to walk past the room and happened to have an issue. This was discussed and it was organised, and as I say, stage managed, and possibly there was a bit of choreography in there as well. Now, this is in fact not unusual, and if we look at nearly all the college incidents, as we can call them, so-called an incident that is meant to oppress black people and black students and or women or something like that. There's just something way too slick about each one of these incidents that I've seen, certainly, where within not even seconds after the incident has taken place, there's a firestorm of social media, righteous indignation. College officials seem to already have a prepared speech and script ready to read out. The offending students are suspended, and the newspapers also seem to be incredibly quick. They seem to have copy just on standby, ready to roll, both online and in print, to cover the incident. Politicians similarly seem to be all prepared, and very quickly they're ready with their little speeches about how terrible it is that black people reminds me of slavery, and it's all that, you've heard it all. But there's just something too stage managed about it. So I believe, and given how quickly the events unfold following the incidents, I believe these incidents are choreographed. The white people are effectively drawn into a web of deceit that they're not aware of. They're just pawns in the game in what's let's call it what it is. It's entrapment, and they're drawn into this, and then they're the white students, or particularly the white males, and then suddenly it's a national headline about the terrible things white people have done. If it was the reverse, of course, we wouldn't hear a thing. But it's just, again, too stage managed. Now, what I've done is I've made a point of checking through on some of these students, and particularly the black students, but others as well. Could be Hispanic students, but from minorities, and looking at their background, and in pretty much every instance, and if there is an exception, I'd like to see it in every instance, one of these outrage, sort of an incident of alleged outrage, all the people involved appear to be paid up members of NGOs. And if you look at these NGOs, they're doing these same scams all across the world. So there'll be something similar will happen in Australia, in Canada, in Britain, and so on and so forth. So clearly it's coordinated, it's centrally controlled, orchestrated. It's a full-on propaganda campaign, and these people are using the college campus to run their propaganda. Now, you think in the real world, the college officials say, hey, we don't allow NGO activists, paid up activists, to run rampant in our college, pushing propaganda, making up fake incidents for alleged racial or gender issues. We don't allow that. You're here as students to study, and that's it. And one more strike here and you're out, sister. But they don't do that. Instead, the college officials and college administration, the lecturers and so on, they're all on board with this. In fact, they're aiding and abetting it. So it can go something like this. Maybe a a lecturer or a professor, excuse me, walks past a room where a few white male students are in there studying, and then tips off the local chapter of Black Lives Matter or some other NGO. It could be a climate NGO, it could be anything. And there are literally hundreds of NGOs that are activists, by the way. And then they can script a situation where let's wait till they're again, then let's go and do this. Let's accuse them of that. It's very, again, very scripted, very choreographed, very stage managed, and with the assistance and the support and certainly the foreknowledge of college officials. So that's really what's going on. Now, if you look at the number of NGOs, and say you've got a college of, for example, 20,000 students, if you look at the number of NGOs who have a presence on these colleges that are activist, globalist controlled, George Soros funded, the whole thing. If you look at the amount of these, then you could be looking at, for 20,000 students, you could be looking at more than 1,000 students activist members, if not paid up members of these NGOs. And their job is not particularly to study, it's to agitate, it's to radicalize, it's to stir up, and it's to look for opportunities to develop a script of outrage. That's what they're there for. And of course, the targets are white people, certainly, but particularly straight white males. Now, again, the college is on side with this, but so, by the way, are the local education authorities, and so are the local politicians. Now, this could be stopped easily. The state government or the federal government or could just say, look, you're there to study. You're not there to be activists. If you want to do any activism, you do it outside of college in your own time. You can't bring it into the college. That's it. You're a paid up member of BLM or this or that NGO, and let's make it very clear, this is not a place for you to apply your ideological activism and your hysterical nonsense. If you do that, you can go to another college, or if you do it another time, you're out, and you forfeited your fees and your right to have a degree. Now, they could also do things like, all right, then, well, if you want to use this place as a bastion of activism, where you stage manage and script situations of confrontation, then we're going to shut down the gender studies, the African American studies, the peace studies. We're going to shut down all those degrees that you activists are involved in, and then you'll have to go somewhere else. So the university, the state government or the federal government, regional governments, if they wanted to, they could do something about this, but they don't. Yet the reverse is the case, that if a white person did it to some black people, it would be international headlines, hysterical outrage at left, right, and centre. But that just goes to show you the double standard, of which we're all aware. So when you look at any or hear about or read about any incident on college, which supposedly some poor minority, particularly a female, has suffered some sort of alleged oppression or indignity or whatever, then you can pretty much be 99% sure the whole thing was stage managed, or the white guy was drawn into it and deliberately entrapped. For example, they'd start an argument with him about accuse him of anything to start an argument. But if he talks back or denies it, or they call him names, he calls them names, that sort of thing, he'll be the one that's held up as the bad example, and the outrage machine will kick off. So that's my take on it. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.